why is it so hard to say no? And I think the big thing for most people is you're worried about ruining the relationships in your life, be it your spouse, be it a parent, be it a friend, not so much coworkers. I feel like people are like, with the coworkers, but maybe but it is, I think it's the fear of damaging or losing those relationships. And what I would say to that is, if that relationship is real, if that is a genuine relationship with somebody who loves you, be it friendship, be it spouse, be it parent, be it whatever, but a genuine love and concern and consideration for you to be in your life, then you can't damage that. If it's real, you're going to work through that and it's going to be there. It's like real relationships, real genuine love for one another doesn't bail on a tough situation. It doesn't bail when a disagreement arises. And so if you're worried about that rejection, think about that. If they are the type people that will reject you and leave you if you set a boundary, then are they the right people in your circle to begin with? Maybe these aren't the people you need in your circle to begin with. I feel very confident in my circle. I say this all the time. It's very small. It's very concise. But I feel confident that no matter what happens within my circle, the circle stays strong. It will always not break. And it's been tested. That theory has been tested. And so I think it's critically important to avoid that rejection is to make sure you've got the right people surrounding you and in your circle, and know that you can feel confident in setting boundaries and saying no. And like I said, if you set a boundary for yourself, if you say no and you experience a rejection and a walk away, let it go. That person wasn't right for you anyway. That person didn't belong in your circle. They weren't working towards what your energy and vibe was working for. Let it go. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel sad. That was the universe telling you that's not the right people. And, I think you have to approach it that way. Because if you live in fear of always losing relationships and or damaging, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable.
I think a big part of it stems from us as human beings not wanting to be alone, and also to piggyback off of that, worried about other people's thought process
Yeah.
behind what they think of us. So, I think there's a lot of different ways you can approach that, because us as human beings, we are people and we need to have social interaction. We need it. We need to leave the house. We need to leave the room. We need to not just go from work to home.
Yeah.
So to be able to establish, when is good for you and when is bad for you, I think that's a big thing. Like we've talked about, being scheduled is very important, but also being scheduled about having downtime is very important. Because you don't want to ruin relationships. Like you said, if it does ruin a relationship, it's probably not the right one for you anyway.
Exactly.
But to be able to definitively say that you don't want to do something or no to somebody, and then that person be a little angry, upset, what have you, but then get past it and y'all are fine. That's how you know that you have a genuine friendship or a genuine love there with that particular soul.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's most important, and evaluating the people in your life I think is also important, because you don't ever really think about what another person means to you, or what a person, or what you mean to another person, or at least I don't. I know some people do. But so when you do that and you know who you're talking to about a certain situation, then you know that that person will eventually or will immediately understand. That's the biggest thing, making sure that you are surrounded by people who will 100% listen to you, 100% understand where you're coming from, because even if they have a different thought process, they can genuinely hear what you're saying, because sometimes it is like talking to a brick wall when
It
you're talking
is.
to some of these people.
It
So to
is.
make sure you have those people around you who actually genuinely care about you and genuinely want to know your thought process behind things.
Yeah, and to flip it on the other side, if you aren't comfortable setting a boundary with somebody that's in your life, if you feel like you can't say no, then that's definitely a warning sign that that relationship is not real.
Hmm.
That love is not actually there. That's a falsehood, that's a misrepresentation, because if you genuinely care for someone, if you genuinely want to be a part of somebody's life, there should be no hesitation in setting boundaries. You should be fearless in saying, I can approach this and say this and not worry about whether that's going to damage anything. So if you are living in fear of being able to set a boundary or say, this is unacceptable in our relationship, then that's a warning sign strictly to you that maybe that relationship isn't what you thought it was. It's actually a facade. It's a manifestation of what you want it to be, but it's not actually what it is. Because you shouldn't have a problem setting a boundary or saying no to someone you feel comfortably caring about or comfortably in love with or comfortably attached to. You shouldn't have that issue. So keep that in mind. You know, if you are, that's very important. And okay, so you can't go, because we talk about this right now about slowing down and compartmentalizing. So let's talk about it. You can't go from 0 to 1,000 in this little game. You can't do it, right? So if you have never set a boundary in your life, if you are a people pleaser and have never said no, you can't just one day say no to everything and tell people to F off, okay? You can't do it. You can't do it. You gotta start small. You gotta think about it and approach it like, I'm going to slowly let the people around me know that I'm going to establish some rules. I'm going to establish some boundaries. I'm going to say, this is how I want things to be between us. And that could be something as simple as, I'm not going to go to every single movie with you. I'm not going to, every time you go out with your friends, I'm not going to go with you. That's simple, meaningless things, really, but it's a way to start the establishment of boundaries. And once you get there, and then sometimes it's the thought process. You know, it's not an immediate no or an immediate yes. The other approach to this to kind of guide into it is think about it. Say things like, let me think about that. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Don't force me into a decision right now. Don't make me say yes or no. Let me think on it a little bit and I'll give you my decision. That is a respectful way to set a boundary. Say, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Respect this boundary momentarily. Give me a minute and then we'll discuss it. And so it's just little things like that. If you know, I feel like it's going back to the conversation like we were having. It's like all in or all out. Saying no doesn't mean being an asshole. You don't have to be assertive, right? You don't have to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a part anymore. It's like simply have a conversation and say, right now, this doesn't really kind of fit with what I'm trying to do. Can we not do that? Can I skip that for right now? Kind of a thing. You can be nice about it. I feel like the other mistake everybody makes is that they go from genuinely trying to be nice to a complete asshole. And you don't have to be an asshole to say no. You can be polite about it, right? Because I mean, how many times have you had somebody say no, right?
It's very interesting because like I feel like it's worse. It's harder to say no when you're in person. Saying no in person, like you feel like you have to explain yourself, in which, you know, if it's someone you care about, you feel like, yeah, I owe them that. I feel like I should at least say something about why I don't want to do this. But I feel like when you're in person, you try to make sure everything stays as groovy as possible. So you try to just quickly say yes to something, and then
Yeah.
later on you're like, shit, why did I do that? So yeah, I mean, using the phrase "let me think about it," that is a big thing. So you have to make sure, you know, if it's something that you're borderline about, even if you eventually say yes, just say the phrase let me think
Exactly.
about it," so you can make sure that it's something you actually want to do. Sometimes you even have to check your schedule because it's a planning thing. Like I said, you have to make sure that you are fully committed.